The rain had already turned the highway into a blurred ribbon of light. When Daniel saw the flash of hazard blinkers up ahead, he almost missed it. There was a dark stretch outside town, no street lamps, just pine trees and the low growl of his old pickup. He was late picking up Lily from his sister's house. Late again, like most Thursdays, but something in the way. Those taillights sat crooked on the shoulder. One of them, flickering in panic, forced his foot to the brake. The truck fishtailed a little on the wet asphalt before he brought it to a stop. For a second, he just listened, drain on metal, distant engines, no sirens. Nobody else was stopping. He grabbed his phone, shoved it in his pocket, and stepped out into the rain. The smell hit him first, wet metal and coolant, with that sharp electric bite of deployed airbags. Down in the ditch, a small sedan was nose first against the embankment, its front end folded like paper. Steam poured out, becoming white ghosts in the rain. Daniel slid down the muddy slope, boots sinking, heart already running ahead of him. He called out, voice rough from a day of drywall dust and silence. "Hey, you okay? Somebody answer me." A woman answered, thin and panicked. Here. Her voice came from the driver's side. She was trapped, seatbelt locked, airbag deflated in her lap, hair stuck to her forehead. Early 30s, shaking but conscious. In the back seat, a car seat was turned sideways, thank God empty. No blood he could see. Relief rolled through him. He told her to breathe, to stay still, that he'd already called it in, even though he hadn't yet, and he did call 911 right then, shouting the location over the hiss of rain. As he talked, his eyes scanned the interior like they always did now, like a reflex he'd learnt after becoming a father. Check for kids, check for danger, check for anything that could hurt. That was when he noticed it on the floorboard behind the passenger seat. A spill of belongings, purse, a tote bag, notebooks, had scattered in the impact. And lying in the middle of it, face down in a puddle of rain and glass, was a teddy bear. Not a brand new one. Its fur was matted in places, one ear slightly darker, from being carried around by a small mouth. The kind of bear that lives on beds and road trips and in hospital rooms. A faded pink bow ringed its neck. Something about it pulled his eyes, a gravitational tug from his own life to this stranger's. Lily slept with a bear almost exactly like that, brown instead of cream, with a stitched heart on the paw. He bent to pick it up, meaning only to set it somewhere dry. The moment his fingers closed around it, the bear spoke. Not a random pre-recorded jingle, not a nursery rhyme, not the metallic song of those toys that play the same tune until the batteries die. The bear spoke in a little girl's voice, clear even through the rain and sirenless dark. "Daddy, did you come back for me?" Daniel froze. The car, the rain, the woman's ragged breathing, all of it dropped away for one suspended second. The bear was small in his calloused hand, light, water dripping from one ear. He stared at it like it might explain itself. Then the voice played again, exactly the same. "Daddy, did you come back for me?" His brain tried to rationalize. Maybe the woman had a daughter. Maybe it was one of those recordable bears. They sold them in the mall, in hospitals. You pressed the paw, held a button, recorded a message. Simple, logical, except the cadence was familiar. The way the word daddy rose just a little like a question, the soft R in 4. Even the tiny breath at the end. He heard it every Sunday night on the phone when Lily asked if he could stay a little longer. It wasn't just a girl's voice, it was Lily's. The world came rushing back in hard. He looked up at the driver. She was staring at him now, confusion wrinkling her brow. "My daughter, there's no recording," she said, misreading his expression. "The bear. It's just a bear." Daniel swallowed, rain cold on his neck. He squeezed the bear gently, searching for a button. The voice didn't play. Press the belly harder. Nothing. On impulse, he tapped the pink bow and the bear's chest at the same time. The little body crackled to life again, and Lily's voice, his daughter's voice, as he had heard it 100 times, spilled out into the broken car. "Daddy, did you come back for me?" His stomach dropped. Lily wasn't anywhere near this highway. She was in a warm house, 2 towns over, probably coloring, probably asking Aunt Grace if Daddy was close. How could a voice be inside the toy of a stranger who'd crashed in a ditch on a night he almost didn't stop? "Sir, are you still there?" the dispatcher asked in his ear. He blinked, forced himself back. "Yeah, I'm here. 1 occupant, conscious. Front-end collision, mile marker 47. Send an ambulance." His voice sounded steady, but his hand, the one holding the bear, wouldn't stop trembling. The driver watched him like she could see the storm behind his eyes. "Is my car gonna blow?" she asked. "No," he said automatically. "You're okay. Help's on the way." But inside him, the night had just opened. Because whatever this was, coincidence, glitch, or something older than either of them, it had chosen the one voice that could make him stop, look twice, and go deeper than a roadside rescue. It had chosen his daughters. And that meant the story didn't start with this crash. It started somewhere else. When the sirens finally began to glow red and blue through the veil of rain. Daniel had already done what he could, kept the woman talking, checked her legs for bleeding, tilted her head so she could breathe easier. But his mind wasn't in that ditch anymore. It was split clean in 2. Half staying present, saying "You're okay. Just breathe," and half looping the sound he'd just heard, like a haunted voicemail from another room in time. "Daddy, did you come back for me?" It wasn't just similar. It was the same tone Lily used the night she asked why he couldn't live in the same house as Mummy anymore. He kept glancing at the bear. It sat on the wet grass where he'd placed it, raindrops purling on its fur, bow wilted, silent now. Innocent, an ordinary child's toy that somehow carried the exact fingerprint of his daughter's voice. A toy that shouldn't know him. The first cruiser slid to a stop on the shoulder. An officer jumped out, raincoat flapping, flashlight already cutting across the scene. An ambulance followed, tires splashing, paramedics moving with practice speed. They took over in seconds, lowering the backboard, checking vitals, fitting a collar around a woman's neck. Daniel stepped back up the slope to give them space, mud streaking his jeans. The officer asked him the usual questions: name, what he saw, how long ago. He answered on autopilot. His eyes never left the bear. "You know her?" the officer asked, nodding toward the injured woman. "No," Daniel said. "Just saw the car." "Could you stop?" the officer said. "Most don't in this rain." Daniel nodded, but in his chest something whispered, "You didn't stop for her. You stopped because something called you." He picked the bear up again before the rain could soak it through. Up close, he saw the little stitched heart on the poor cheap embroidery, fading pink. The voice mechanism had to be inside. He searched the seams with his thumb. If it was recordable, there'd be a slit, a battery flap, some obvious plastic. There was nothing, just fur and the faint smell of baby shampoo. He pressed the belly once, twice. Silence. One of the paramedics looked up from strapping the woman in. "Hey, could you hand me her purse? We'll take it with her." "Yeah." He grabbed the tote bag and the purse, then hesitated with the bear. "This hers?" The driver, strapped to the board, looked at it like she'd never seen it. "No," she said, wincing. "I don't... Oh, wait. It might have been in the trunk. I picked up some boxes from my sister. Stuff from her daughter. I didn't even know a bear was in there. So it wasn't even hers. It wasn't her kid's voice. It was just in the car. Can I?" Daniel heard himself ask, ridiculous even as the words left his mouth. "Can I hold on to this? I can bring it to the hospital. The paramedic shrugged. Sure, man. We'll log her stuff. You can check in at the desk. They loaded her up. The ambulance door slammed. Engines roared. In a wash of light and water they were gone, sirens finally tearing open the night. The ditch was suddenly quiet again. Just rain. The dead car. The officer finishing his notes. Daniel stood there with a stranger's teddy bear in his hand, like it was evidence from his own life. "All right, Mr. Carter, that should do it," the officer said. "You're free to go. Drive safe." "Yeah, you too," Daniel said, climbing the slope toward his truck. He tossed his soaked jacket on the passenger seat, sat behind the wheel, and closed the door. Rain drummed on the roof, loud and isolating. He set the bear on his lap and just stared at it. "Okay," he whispered, as if talking to a child. "What are you?" The obvious explanation tried to elbow its way in. A mass-produced bear with a stock recording that happened to sound like Lilik, maybe, or Little. Girls sounded like that at 4 years old. Soft consonants, little question marks at the end. Maybe he was hearing what he wanted to hear because he missed her. Because every time he dropped her off on Sundays, the car ride home felt too quiet. Because single fathers start to measure time, not in days, but in visits. But the problem was, this wasn't a generic phrase. Not, "I love you, Daddy." Not, "You're the best." Not a birthday greeting. It was a question that matched a wound. "Did you come back for me?" That was the exact sentence Lily said the first week after the separation, when he arrived at the wrong time because he'd mixed up schedules. She'd run to the door in her socks and whispered it like she was afraid her mother would hear her wanting too much. "Did you come back for me?" Memories unspooled in his mind, cinematic and cruel. The small apartment he rented after the marriage fell apart. White walls, a couch too big for the space, drawings from Lily taped stubbornly to the fridge. The way she used to fall asleep with her bear under her chin, thumbing her mouth. The cartoon playing too low on the TV. Him, working late, coming home to quiet. Him, learning how to French braid from a YouTube video because Lily wanted princess hair on his weekend. Him, promising her that, even if he wasn't living with her every day, he would always come back. So how did that promise end up inside a soaked teddy bear in a stranger's car? He turned the key, not to drive, just to get the cabin lights on. In the warm glow, the bear looked even more like something from his daughter's room. He lifted the bow, checked under it. Nothing. He pressed the paw. Nothing. He held it to his ear like he might hear a hum. Silence. Then, on impulse, he said quietly, "Lily." The bear crackled, as if some tiny contact inside finally met. "Daddy, did you come back for me?" He dropped it. Actually dropped it. The bear tumbled onto the floor mat, eyes staring at the ceiling of the truck. Daniel's breath came fast. This time there was no rain, no crash scene, no other voices to confuse it. It was his daughter's voice, in his truck, answering to her name. Something shifted inside him then. A subtle but undeniable tilt, from coincidence to pattern. This wasn't random, this was specific. It was like the night itself was choosing him. Threading two unrelated events, a stranger's accident and a father's lingering guilt, into the same line. This was the kind of moment he would have once dismissed when life was simple, when he still wore a wedding ring and came home to warm food. But since the divorce, since he'd started noticing odd alignments, a song they loved playing in the grocery store right after he thought of her, a photo of her falling off the fridge exactly on the day he missed a call, he'd begun to wonder if some things were not coincidences at all, but invitations. His phone buzzed on the passenger seat. "Grace." "Hey," he answered, trying to steady his voice. "You alive?" his sister said. "Lily's out like a light. I told her you were stuck in traffic. You close?" He looked at the clock. He was very much not close. Yeah, he lied. Got held up. There was an accident. I'll grab her in the morning, okay? Tell her Daddy loves her. She knows, Grace said. Drive safe. He hung up, and the guilt settled heavy. He pictured Lily's small body, curled under a blanket that didn't smell like him. He pictured the bear he'd given her on her 3rd birthday, the one with the red ribbon that she still kept even though she was getting too big for stuffed toys. What if somehow, somewhere between houses and hands and years, a tiny recording of his daughter's longing had been copied, displaced, carried? What if this bear was a mirror held up to him? Outside, the tow truck arrived for the wreck. Lights spun, illuminating the tree line. For a second, the whole scene looked staged, like a frame out of one of those documentary channels he watched late at night. A man in a truck, alone, holding an object that shouldn't know his story. A rain-soaked highway. A choice forming. Because he could do the sensible thing. Drop the bear at the hospital desk, sign whatever form, and forget the whole eerie detail. Tell himself it was a fluke. But the question inside the bear wasn't really the bear's. It was Lily's, and the person it was aimed at was him. Did you come back for me? That question didn't end at divorce papers. Kept echoing through every promise, every delay, every night he didn't show. He picked the bear up from the floor and set it on the seat beside him like a passenger. We're not done, he said under his breath. He put the truck in drive and pulled back onto the highway, wipers working hard. Instead of heading home, he merged in the opposite direction toward the hospital, toward answers, toward the thin place where strangers' belongings meet personal ghosts. Because if a toy could carry his daughter's voice, then something or someone knew how to reach him. And if it could reach him once, maybe it could point to something else tangled up in the past, something older than a crash on a rainy road, something he hadn't come back for yet. The hospital parking lot was half empty by the time Daniel pulled in. The rain reduced to a fine mist that hung over the asphalt like smoke. The fluorescent lights above the emergency entrance flickered in rhythm with his pulse. He parked near the ambulance bay, engine idling, wipers whispering back and forth. The bear sat upright on the passenger seat now, the glow from the dashboard washing over its face. Its stitched smile looked almost solemn, like it understood why he'd come. Inside the hospital, everything smelled of antiseptic and exhaustion. The receptionist at the trauma desk looked up as he approached, water dripping from his jacket. "Can I help you?" she asked. "There was an accident," he said. "I stopped to help. They brought the driver here. I think I have something of hers." She asked for the woman's name, and he realized he didn't know it. He described the car, the location, the time. After a few clicks on the keyboard, the receptionist nodded. "That's probably Miss Parker. She's stable. You can leave her belongings with security." He hesitated, glancing down at the bear in his hand. The receptionist smiled politely. "We'll make sure it gets to her," she said. But Daniel didn't move. Could I just see her for a second? I just want to make sure she's okay." The receptionist frowned, as if trying to decide whether he looked harmless or unhinged. "1 minute," she said finally. "She's in room 204, end of the hall." He thanked her and took the stairs. The hall smelled faintly of iodine and wet shoes. Machines beeped softly behind closed doors. When he reached 204, the door was half open. MAS. Parker was awake, a brace around her neck, one arm in a sling. She turned her head slightly when he stepped in. "Hey," he said softly. "Just wanted to see how you're doing." "I've been better," she said, trying to smile. Her eyes flicked to the bear in his hand. "You brought it?" "Yeah," he said. "It was on the floor. Thought it might belong to you." She shook her head. "It must have fallen out of one of the boxes. My sister's daughter passed last year. I was moving some of her things, that bear. It was hers. The air in the room shifted. Daniel blinked. Her daughter. She was 6, the woman said quietly. Leukemia. My sister can't bear to look at her stuff, so she asked me to take it away. I didn't even know there was a recording in that thing. Daniel's grip on the bear tightened. You're sure? Yes. Why? He hesitated, caught between reason and the tremor running through his chest, because it said something. It spoke in my daughter's voice. Miss Parker frowned. Your daughter's voice? He nodded. Same words, same tone. I'd know it anywhere. She looked at him for a long moment, the fluorescent light flickering over her pale face. Maybe it's coincidence, she said finally. Kids record things all the time. Maybe your daughter recorded the same phrase. Daniel shook his head. No, she never had a bear like this. Silence filled the room, thick and humming. Somewhere down the hall, a machine let out a steady beeping. Would you mind, he said quietly, if I played it again? The woman nodded slowly. He pressed the bear's belly. Nothing. He tapped the paw, shook it gently. Still silence. He whispered, Lily. The bear crackled. Daddy, did you come back for me? The woman gasped. Her hand flew to her mouth. That wasn't my niece's voice. Daniel swallowed hard. No, he said. It's my daughter's. They stared at each other, the weight of something unseen pressing down on both of them. For a moment the hospital felt impossibly still. Then the woman whispered, There's something written inside the heart on its paw. I noticed it once, years ago. My niece used to say it was a message from her imaginary friend. Daniel turned the bear over. The stitched heart was faded, threads fraying. He squinted. Beneath the embroidery, in faint red ink, someone had written 3 letters. L.C. He froze. Lily Carter, his daughter's initials. His throat went dry. Where did your sister get this bear? The woman frowned. I think it was a gift. From a charity drive in Portland, maybe 6 years ago. Why? Daniel felt the room tilt, like the floor had dropped a few inches. 6 years ago, his wife had been pregnant with Lily. They'd donated to a local children's charity. That Christmas, his company had sponsored a hospital toy drive. He'd signed a few bears himself, initials under the paw as part of a campaign to send toys to kids with cancer. He remembered using a red pen. He remembered writing LC for Lily Carter, the baby who wasn't even born yet. The realization rippled through him. The bear had once been his. The air conditioner hummed above them. He looked down at the toy in awe. Somehow, through the random scatter of life and tragedy, it had found its way back to him, through another family, another child, another loss. And when it finally returned, it carried his daughter's voice, like a message that had traveled not through mail or time, but through something, deep grief, maybe, or fate. I think it belonged to us, he said softly. Miss Parker stared. What are the odds? He laughed once, bitterly. I don't even think this is about odds anymore. The bear stayed silent now, but Daniel could almost feel its presence vibrating, as if the little device inside was listening. He thanked her and stepped out into the hallway. His legs felt unsteady, like he was walking underwater. He stopped near a window, overlooking the dark parking lot. The rain had stopped completely. The sky was a deep, wet black. Streetlights shimmered in the puddles. He looked at the bear again and whispered, How did you find your way back? There was no answer, of course, just the muffled hum of hospital life. Yet somewhere behind the silence, Daniel sensed something ancient, the quiet way loss rearranges itself, moving through people like wind through leaves, carrying fragments of love from one story to another until they find their home again. He pressed the bear's paw one last time. This time, no voice came, just a faint mechanical click, like an exhale. He felt oddly relieved. Whatever message it had carried had been delivered. As he walked out of the hospital, He caught sight of his reflection in the glass door, tired eyes, wet clothes, and a small toy tucked in his arm. For the first time in months, the weight of guilt in his chest felt lighter. He drove through quiet streets toward his sister's house. The clock on the dashboard blinked 2:17 a.m. He turned down the radio and let the night breathe. The world outside looked softer now, gentler. When he arrived, he left the truck running and sat for a while, watching the house lights flicker behind the curtains. He imagined Lily asleep, her small hand clutching her old bear, the red ribbon one. He could almost hear her breathing. He looked at the new bear and whispered, "You brought me back, didn't you?" The toy didn't answer, but in the hum of the engine, he thought he heard something faint, a static whisper, like the memory of rain. He went inside quietly. The hallway creaked under his boots. Grace had left a lamp on in the living room. He walked to Lily's room, careful not to wake her. She was asleep, hair spread across the pillow, cheeks flushed with dreams. Her bear lay beside her. Daniel knelt by the bed, the other bear in his hands. For a moment, he felt like he was standing between two worlds, the living and the remembered. He placed the new bear gently on the shelf beside her nightlight. "You're home now," he whispered. Something about that moment felt final, like a circuit closing. The faint scent of rain drifted through the open window. He turned to leave, but then Lily stirred. Her eyelids fluttered and she whispered, "Half asleep, Daddy. You came back." He froze. His throat ached. "Yeah," he whispered. "I did." Her breathing steadied again. In the hallway, Daniel paused and looked back once more. The two bears sat together, and now, one with a red ribbon, one with a pink bow, like reflections of each other across time. He thought about how life sometimes folds in on itself, how stories collide in invisible ways, how maybe, somewhere between coincidence and miracle, there are bridges that connect every loss, every love, every unanswered question. He turned off the light and closed the door quietly behind him. Outside, the first light of dawn began to smear the sky, washing the night clean. But in the back of his mind, something else was forming, another memory, faint but insistent. The tow truck driver, back at the crash site, had said something before Daniel left, something about another accident the week before, on the same stretch of road, same ditch, different driver. He hadn't thought about it then, but now, standing in the pale morning light, Daniel felt the loop tighten. Because maybe this wasn't the first object to carry a message. Maybe the road itself had become a crossing point between stories, between the living, the lost, and those still searching. And somewhere out there, under another stretch of rain, another traveler would stop for a reason they couldn't explain, and find something that spoke back. By morning, the rain had vanished as if it had never happened. The road was dry again, the world pretending nothing had taken place the night before. But for Daniel, everything looked altered, edges sharper, sounds slower, as though he was walking inside a photograph he didn't remember taking. He stood outside on the porch with a mug of coffee, watching the mist lift off the trees. Inside, he could hear the faint murmur of cartoons, Lily's small laughter echoing through the house. The ordinary sound of it broke him a little. It had been months since her laughter didn't feel like something distant he was borrowing. He looked down at the bear on the porch rail. Morning light revealed every thread, every faded line in its fabric. The initials on the paw glowed faintly beneath the sun. See a message that had waited years to return home. He realized the bear wasn't some haunted thing. It was proof that love, once sent out into the world, never truly vanished. It just changed hands until it found its way back. When Lily came outside, still in her pajamas, she rubbed her eyes and smiled. "You didn't go to work?" "Not today," Daniel said. "Thought I'd stay a bit." She climbed onto his lap, carrying her old red ribbon bear. "You missed bedtime," she said softly. "I know," he whispered, "but I came back." She studied the new bear on the railing. "Who's that?" He smiled. "An old friend who got a little lost." Lily reached out and touched the bear's paw. For a heartbeat, Daniel feared the voice would play again. But it didn't. The bear stayed silent, resting peacefully between them. "Can it stay with me?" she asked. He nodded. "Yeah, I think that's where it belongs." For a while they just sat there, watching the morning spill over the trees. Somewhere in the distance, a tow truck rumbled down the same highway as the night before, carrying away what was left of the crash. A circle closing quietly. Daniel exhaled, feeling the weight inside him dissolve. Not completely, but enough. He'd always thought healing came from fixing something. But now he understood. It came from listening, really listening to what the world was trying to return to you. Before heading inside, he looked once more at the highway beyond the trees. It shimmered faintly in the sunlight, a line of silver threading through the hills. He had the strange sense that something was still waiting there. Another story, hidden under the asphalt. Another soul, caught mid-sentence, waiting for someone to stop. He turned to Lily, brushed her hair back, and smiled. "Let's make pancakes," he said. As they went inside, the breeze stirred across the porch. The two bears sat side by side now, the red ribbon and the pink bough motionless, except for the faint rustle of fabric in the wind. And though no one was there to hear it, a whisper rose between them, soft, almost imagined, like a child's voice carried through static. "Someone else is coming." The loop had begun again.